Shri Gauranga, all blessed Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you, Premamani. Now we need a volunteer to lead the chanting of the verse.
Who wants to read the verse? Today's verse is chapter 5, text 11. Let's maybe, what Damodara Priya? Would you like to read the verse? On screen? Okay, let's me 1 second, then I need to share. Sure. Let's start. Can you see the verse?
Hare Krishna, yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Kayena manasa. No, wait, it's Behinos Mindata Dehi. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalirindra yogina karma kurvanti sangam twama suchudaye. I think possibly.
What's the chapter? What's it?
5:11.
5:11.
5.
You want me to read the synonyms or just that?
Please.
Okay. Kayena with the body, manasa with the mind, buddhya with the intelligence, keva laihi purified, indrayehi with the senses, api even, yoginaha Krishna conscious person, karma actions, kurvanti they perform, sangam attachment, twa giving up, atma of the self, shudaye for the purpose of purification.
Okay. Let's hear the translation and purport. You could continue if you would.
Okay. Will do. Thank you, Maharaj. There we go. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with the body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sadachara, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.87 describes this as follows. Thank you. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila swapi avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activity. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body, or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body, and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession, to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much. Om Jnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Shapadantikam. I hope I can be heard. Yes? Okay. Kayena Manasa Buddhya Kevalarandriyarapi Yogina Karma Kurvanti Sangam Chaktvatma Shuddhaye. The difference between action in Krishna consciousness and action in material consciousness is what we need to see. There are those who think that since karma creates, or action creates karmic reactions, the solution is to stop acting. That will solve the problem. Or they think that, well, very selectively, we'll only perform certain particular actions. Arjuna, he's unwilling to fight because fighting will bring sinful reactions, he thinks. So better than this ghastly ghoram, this ghastly activity, it would be better to go off to the forest and meditate, perform yoga, rather than fight. And here, no, that what is that? Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tistatra karmakrit. No one can stop acting, even for a moment. But here, how to act in such a way that one will not be affected is described in the previous verse, Lipyate nasapapena padmapatram ivambasa. The person who acts in Krishna consciousness is like the lotus leaf floating on the water. The lotus leaf is sitting on the water, but it's not being drenched by the water. So the Krishna conscious person is acting, but he's unaffected by the results of his activities. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalarindriyarapi. He acts with his body, kayena, manasa with the mind, buddhya with his intelligence, kevalarindriyarapi, and even with the senses. But he remains connected to Krishna, yukta, yogin. All of his activities are dedicated to Krishna. So the yogi or the devotee performs activities, karma kurmanti, but sangam chaktvatma shuddhaye. He gives up all attachment to the results of the activities and dedicates everything to Krishna. Matkuroshi marashyasi ashnasi yajjoshi didasi yat yattapasyasi kauntya tat guru shamararpana. So this is the secret of success, to act in Krishna consciousness. Then everything becomes connected with Krishna. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam chakva kurotiya lipyate nasapapena. He dedicates everything to the absolute truth, to Krishna. Yes. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam chakva kurotiya. But he acts without attachment. In the next verse, it will be said, Ayukta karma palam chaktva shantim apnoti naishtakim. The person who acts in Krishna consciousness, yukta, gives up the results of his activities. He offers them to Krishna, and therefore he attains perfect peace. People are looking for peace, but at the same time they want to hold on to everything and enjoy. So I want to enjoy, and you want to enjoy, we both want to enjoy the same object. And so there went peace. Now we're going to fight. But the Krishna conscious person is peaceful. Mukti mukti siddhi kami sakala ashanta. Those who are desiring sense gratification, liberation, mystic powers, they're all ashanta. They can't be peaceful because they're agitated by their material desires. But Krishna Bhakta Nishkam, a devotee has no such desires. But they have ashanta. Therefore, he's actually peaceful. The Prabhupada quotes from Srila Rupa Goswami, Iha yasya harir dasye karmana manasa gira nikalashvapyavastasu jivan mukta suchate. Even here, iha means here in this material world. Iha yasya harir dasye, for the person who's in this material world, acting as Haridas, servant of Krishna. Iha yasya harir dasye, same thing, karmana manasa gira, with body, mind, and words. Nikalashvapyavastasu. Jivan mukta suchate. Even while staying in this material world, he's called a Jivan Mukta, a liberated person. This is, therefore one can be liberated even in this body if one acts in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the coconut. When you have a coconut and it dries up, then the coconut meat dries up, and if you rattle the coconut, or if you shake the coconut, you'll hear the coconut meat rattling around inside. Because even though it's still inside the coconut, it's disconnected from the shell. So the Krishna conscious person, even though in this material body, is disconnected from the body because he's not attached. He knows I'm not this body. He knows these friends and family members and relatives connected to the body are not actually connected to me. He knows that nothing belongs to him. So Jivan Mukta, he's a liberated soul, even while in material existence. So we may not start off liberated, certainly, but we can come to the point of liberation and go still further by cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'll stop here and see kind of comments, questions, realizations. Your realizations are invited. We'd like to hear from you. And the more you speak, the less I have to speak. So that's also a good reason for us to hear from others. But even then, we should, it's good for us to hear from you. Any questions or comments you may have?
If you have a question or comment, please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat and we will read it then. Damodara Priya. Oh, sorry.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the analogy of the coconut. That it's always helpful to have the analogies that we can relate to. And I was wondering, when this comes up about understanding that we are not this body and that our family members, like just temporary, they're not, like for us to not get too attached. Whenever this comes up in conversations, especially when people who are new to Krishna consciousness, some of the responses that I get are like, well, that's very cold. That's very, it just seems like to them, like we're saying, well, you don't love your family, you don't love other people because, you're just focusing on the spiritual and you're kind of forgetting about everybody else. And I was just wondering, do you have any suggestions, or does anybody else have any suggestions on how to address those concerns when they come up when speaking to newcomers? Thank you so much.
Do others have some comments? I have some, but I'd be interested to hear others.
I guess my comment addition, sorry, I don't have my video on. I guess my comment or addition to that would be more of like the middle way in that is like I would be the one who would be seeking like the advice on, where to find middle ground in that per se. It's like I don't necessarily wish to completely detach from my family, but I know that I am attached to them, and I can see that attachment as being, it could be a hindrance in my spiritual attainments and my desires spiritually. So it's like, but I would be seeking like I would be seeking guidance to say like, where's the middle ground, in which sense? Because I would probably be someone who would say like, yeah, that is a bit cold. And like, I don't necessarily a wish in this lifetime to completely detach. It's not a goal that I feel like I want at this point in my life. So that's like my input into that. So I'm interested to hear the comment to your question. It's just interesting how that works.
Anything else? Thank you, Julia. Okay. The criticism or the misgiving is that we're becoming cold, we're not acknowledging other people. It's just, yes, we're not acknowledging other people, we're just cold. We would answer the opposite, that you're neglecting other people, you're just focused on their bodies and minds. You're just focused on their bodies and mind. You think that the person, of course, I wouldn't be so accusatory perhaps, but the person who's not Krishna conscious thinks that the body and mind is the self. So we love the body, we love the mind. But the mind is not the person, the body is not the person. It's like, I love your Tesla. It's you're so wonderful because you're white. I just love white Teslas, and electric cars are just like ooh, and so on. So yeah, we have a relationship with that person, and maybe even the person thinks, yes, they really appreciate me, but I'm not this Tesla. The car is not myself. And that someone loves the car doesn't mean that they love me. They're loving the external vehicle only. So the love directed by the non-devotee or the person who's not self-realized is directed to the outer covering of the self. And the actual self, they don't know. They don't know. And so there's this a kind of false love. It's not love of the person at all. It's what they've mistaken to be the person, what they've confounded with the person, not the person. And so they're thinking, this is my wife, this is my husband, this is my son, this is my daughter. And that's as far as their understanding goes. But that understanding is superficial, that understanding is external, that understanding misses the actual person. Person is the soul within the body, and that soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So the Krishna conscious person is the well-wisher of all living entities. He's not that I love my daughter, I love my son, and and maybe I love my dog, but I kill cows, I kill other creatures where I just don't care about others. The Krishna conscious person sees Sarvabhuta tamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. He sees all living beings equally. He sees that all the living beings are situated in Krishna, and Krishna is situated in every living being, and therefore he has a natural relationship with other living beings in relationship to Krishna. And that's the real relationship. The relationship of this is my son, this is my daughter, this is my mother, that will be finished. Give it a few years and it'll be gone. And meanwhile, you lament in terms of the false bodily identity. But the Krishna conscious person sees that every living being is part of Krishna. Every living being is within Krishna. Krishna is within all, and therefore sees the true self. Atmopam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjana sukham va yadiva dukham siyogi paramomata. He's the topmost yogi because he sees all others in reference to himself. And reference to himself means reference to his real self. He knows that I'm spirit soul, I'm part of Krishna, but I was forgetting Krishna and I was suffering. Or sometimes I was so-called enjoying, other times I was suffering. Until by the grace of the devotees, by the grace of my spiritual master, I became Krishna conscious. So I come to this Brahman platform, spiritual platform, the Shochati Nakangshati, in which there's no anchoring, no lamenting. So the devotee, Sukham Vayadiva Dukkam, he sympathizes with the other living entities, but he sees that their so-called happiness and distress are superficial. Anartho Pasamam Shakshat, Bhakti Yogam Adhokshaje. Lokasya Janata Vidvan Chakre Sangita Chakre Sattvata Sangita. The Krishna conscious person sees that the sufferings that we're going through or the enjoyment that we're experiencing are superficial. They have nothing to do with our real life. But he knows that people in general, other people don't know this. And therefore, Vyasadeva wrote this Sattvata Sangita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the devotee is eager to distribute this message to others. If we don't care about others, why are we distributing books, going through so much trouble? The devotees go through so much trouble just to distribute Prabhupada's books to others. They could stay home and, have a much easier life. But they go out and do this work, going through all sorts of trouble and risk for the benefit of others. So how is it that we don't care? We care, but not in this false bodily conception. You want to bring in this idea that if we're not in that false conception, then we don't care. The caring is greater when we come to the reality. And it's broader because, I care about my family. And I don't give a damn about your family. Or I care about my nation and I'm ready to stomp on your nation. No. The Krishna conscious person sees everything in relationship to Krishna. Therefore, he's the best well-wishing friend of others. How's that? Damodara Priya. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj. I really appreciate that. Just to reflect back, what I really hear you saying is that we can answer those kind of questions by explaining that in Krishna consciousness, it's more inclusive love instead of this exclusive love. And is that correct, or am I?
That's true. It's more inclusive. It's more extensive. It's not limited. It's not crippled, so that it's directed only to a few people. And also, even if we talk about the relationship with the few people, it's more authentic because it's real. It's not that I love your body or your mind, and I have no idea even who you are. But we see that the body and mind are external, and we actually love the person. Otherwise, so often when the relationship is on the bodily platform, and when the body starts to fall apart, the love falls apart with it. We love you until you start to sag and drag, and then we don't love you so much anymore. Or we love you while you have money in your pocket, and when there's no longer any money in your pocket, something happens to the love. Because that's the nature of the material platform. It's not real love. It's on the platform where today this, tomorrow that. It's on a whimsical platform. Mano retaina sati dhavato bihi. But on the Krishna conscious platform, the relationships are an eternal reality, not a temporary dream. So the individual relationships are more authentic. It's not that we don't care about our children, we don't care about our siblings. We care more, and therefore we want them earnestly to be engaged in Krishna consciousness, that their life will be happy. Okay. Something else?
Okay, I see Alexander had a question. He just wrote in the chat. Wait, yeah, maybe you can. Okay, do you want to say it out loud? Let's see.
Hi now. Thank you. So I'm very new on my spiritual journey, less than a year. But I've always been incredibly sensitive, and I think that sensitivity has allowed me to, have a kind of feeling of spirituality, which I've been going through over this past year. And I really liked your analogy of the Tesla, the vehicle, this body being the vehicle for something that is so much greater than this body. So my question is, how do we, I guess, make the best use of our body for spirituality, in a world that's kind of juxtaposed to spirituality? This is something that I struggle with, even with my thinking, and going to war with my own mind, let alone channeling spirituality in the rest of my energy systems in my body.
Thank you, Alexander. How do we channel our energy onto the spiritual platform? How do we act in such a way that it's in conformity with spiritual values? Do I have your question right? Did I have a sense that I missed?
Yeah. So my awakening was very tangible. I felt spirit come down on me in a way that was like I felt it It felt like electricity. And this is something that I've struggled to hold on to, throughout. Like it starts at the crown of my head, and it gets stuck at my heart center. So it's like, how do I open up my heart by letting go of like all the karmic trauma that I carry, not only from my life, but my ancestral line, and then just be an embodiment of the kind of love that you're talking about.
We experience, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah, that's it. I just, like, how do I open up my energy systems, and how do all of us open up our energy systems so we can be a home for spirit?
We have an experience of spiritual energy, but how do we keep that from getting blocked? How do we sustain that so that it's substantial and enduring?
Yes.
Here Krishna indicates that the key is action, because I have an experience or I have a realization, and I can sort of relish it or immerse myself in it for some time, but then what do? Now what? I realize that I'm not this body. I realize that I'm spirit. I realize that I'm a vessel for spiritual energy. Well, now what? Do I sit here for the rest of the day and sort of hum with that realization, sort of vibrate to that frequency? Is that what I do for the rest of my life? Clearly that doesn't work. So now what do I have to do something. So when I have that awakening to my spiritual identity, the next thing is to act in my spiritual identity. The next thing is to act in that spiritual identity. And Krishna indicates that the way to act is to act for him. Kayena, with my body, I can serve Krishna. I can do some practical service. I can bow down before Krishna. I can I can clean the floor for Krishna, temple floor. I can do so many things with my body. And manasa, I can use my mind. I can fix my mind on thoughts of Krishna. The mind is the subtle body. That body can be used for Krishna. And buddhya, I can use my intelligence for Krishna. If I use my intelligence and my mind properly, then I can use my body properly, and indriyarapi, even my senses now, I can use. It's not that the senses get in the way of spiritual realization. I can't move ahead with spiritual realization because my senses are limiting me. I can use those senses in the service of Krishna. What are the senses? In the Vedic conception, there's two sets of senses. They're called karmendriyas, active senses, and gyanendriyas, the knowledge perceiving senses. So the knowledge perceiving senses are the ones that most of us think of as senses: the eyes, the ears, the nose, sense of touch, tongue for tasting. We think of these as our senses because they give us experience. The experience of seeing, the experience of hearing, the experience of touching, and so on. So they're the knowledge gathering or the experience gathering senses. But the other is not what we usually call senses, but they're called senses in the Vedic terminology. They're called karmendriyas, active senses: the hands, the legs, the belly, the genitals also, the tongue for speaking. The tongue is a dual purpose sense. It receives experience by tasting, and it acts by speaking. So these karmendriyas, senses for action, can be engaged. It's not that we somehow What do I do with these? They're just in the way. I can use them for Krishna. And the Bhakti Yoga system prescribes all sorts of ways to engage the functions of our body, our mind, intelligence, everything. With the tongue, I can speak about Krishna. With my mind, I can think about Krishna. My ear, I can hear about Krishna. With my nostrils, I can smell the flowers and incense offered to Krishna. In this way, I can engage my knowledge-gathering senses, and my hands I can use to clean the temple, my legs I can use to go to the temple. Even the genitals one can use in Krishna's service by begetting Krishna-conscious children. So everything can be used in the service of Krishna. And that purifies our life. It's not only that it doesn't get in the way, but when I use my senses for Krishna, that purifies my senses. That purifies my mind, that purifies my intelligence, it purifies my life. And it's practical. Just sitting and experiencing can't last very long. But activity in the service of Krishna is practical and uplifting. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. That's Bhakti Yoga, practical activity in the service of Krishna. Something else? What I'm going to propose is that we stop maybe half an hour early. That will do a little kindness for the inflamed larynx, and be good. Should we have a little more kirtan before we?
Yes, we can. If Premamani, would you like to lead another kirtan for a few minutes? Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, Premamani? We can't hear you. Yeah, okay, we can't hear Premamani. But maybe, I know Damodara Priya, she already read the verse, but what about Kirtan? Maybe she...
I don't sing as beautifully as Brahmamani, but I could do a simple.
Sure, simple, just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So everyone else will be muted, and Damodara Priya, she will chant Hare Krishna mantra and call both call and response, and then we can chant also in our respective locations, but we won't hear each other. We will hear only Damodara Priya.
And
Okay.
I don't know how to do those end prayers. I know very simple, like Jaya Srila Prabhupada and then the deities, so I can do that, but not
I'm with Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, who could also lead the kirtan, but
he sing?
he can lead certainly the. You want to lead kirtan, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu? Yeah. Okay, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu will lead the kirtan and do the.
Okay, Maharaj, will you stay for the kirtan or?
Why not?
Okay, so that we could say goodbye to you later. Okay, after this. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parikacharya Astottara Sashish Divine Grace AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गौर धाम की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय मायापुर नबी धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी की जय श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर बंधु की जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय all glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to assembled Hare Krishna all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for chanting beautiful Kirtan. And also I will ask everyone to unmute themselves and express our appreciations to Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj for giving such a beautiful talk today. Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hi, well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us all today.
Thank you all. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Yeah.